Hi, I'm Rick Dior. And that was solo number 1 from Joseph Tompkins' 9 French-American Rudimental Solos. He has 2 volumes of these books. I just really love them. I think they're fantastic. And they're a mix of the American rudimental style as well as the great French drumming style, which is completely different than our rudimental system. Some of these are based off of a book, Superior Snare Drum, which is a fantastic book. The notation's a little different than what you may be used to looking at. There's circles and dots for right and left. Anybody who's studied some of the Delacluze French solo snare drum books that are classical in nature knows that style of stickings. So these solos are really funky, and they're very rudimentally and rhythmically complex. So you got to plan on playing some really difficult stickings. You don't have to play all the stickings exactly as they're written. I'm trying to do most of them. A few of them I've changed, and I'll go over that. They're also slower in tempo than most of the rudimental things many of you are used to. So that tempo was quarter note equals 68, which is the max tempo he suggests. But you can play these faster or slower than written. Now, I do these a lot with my advanced students, and they get a lot of benefit out of them because they're so unorthodox compared to what they're used to doing. You're squeezing a lot of rhythms, like groups of 5 and 7, into singular beats there. So it's a whole new system to learn, and it's just really beneficial for your hands, your mind, and your reading, of course. So we'll go through this solo. It's number 1, again, of volume 1. There's 9 of these in the first volume, and all of them have a bit of a thematic difference. So these groups of 5 that you heard that sound like this in the beginning, that's very common, and Mr. Tompkins uses these throughout the book in different solos. So slowly that sounds like this. So you're going to put a little bit of weight, not really an accent, but a little weight on those first notes to carry them through. Now, I like to bring out the accents kind of heavy. I don't play all the accents exactly the same. In my opinion, these should be a little bit funky and fun, kind of, off-kilter. Some of these accents are not where you expect them. So that's part of the charm of these great pieces. So we're going to go through this line by line. And the first line, I'll play these all with the metronome, and we'll stop. So let's do this first line. 1, 2, 3. Now, the drum I'm using is this giant 16 by 16 Pearl Philharmonic field drum. This thing's a monster. I love playing on this drum, but you got to work a little harder because the head's kind of mushy. It's almost like playing on a floor tom. So the dynamics are a little bit louder than what they would be on a concert snare drum. I got one over here. I don't know if you can see that. And maybe I'll do a different video on a concert snare drum, but I love playing these solos on a big field drum. I think they just sound really fat and, like I said, funky. So make sure you don't play that too loud, but it doesn't have to be whisper quiet. And this next line, you have the first roll. Now, he writes his buzz rolls with a Z, which is common, and then the open rolls, of which there are none in this etude, but later on there'll be lots of them in other etudes, will just be the regular slashes. And some of the rolls are not connected. Now, this one is in line 2. But the ones that aren't, you should not connect. You want to get off right before that note. So let's play this line 2 for you. 1, 2, 3. And there you see those groupings of 6s and 5s. Now, I can't post this on the screen because it would be a copyright infringement. So you all need to buy the book if you want to get into this. And then the next line, line 3, has a flam before this disconnected roll. So that should be a little bit of an open flam. It should sound like this. Now you can play that roll shorter. I just like to play it a little bit longer. So we'll play this line for you now, line 3. Now we get to line 4. Now the hard stuff begins. So you're playing these basic American flam rudiments, and then you get to this on the third beat of that first measure, this. So that's a crushed 4, extremely fast. So it's part of a triplet. So this is what that line sounds like. And that's our first disconnected roll. All right? So we're going to play line 4 into line 5 now. So you see how that roll, I get off it at the last second. It says 9th stroke. It's not really a 9th stroke roll because it's not open, but that's the underlying pulse would be to make it a 9. So, and then I'm tightening up a little to get off right before letter A. Now, if you look at line 5, that's the most difficult measure in the piece to interpret. So we'll do that a little slower so you can check that out. At quarter note equals 58. You first want to start by counting 5s. So the first 5 is 1 beat, and I'll put this on the screen. Hopefully I won't get sued. And then the second beat is that group of notes you see here. Third beat is just. So now we'll play at a tempo for you. So you see how that works right there. And then we go on to the next line. And this line is not difficult. Those little swells, the hairpin crescendos and decrescendos, don't worry about those too much. That's more of a phrasing. I'll play that for you. So you see how I do that up and down slightly. The last line of this page is pretty tricky. That second bar is deceptively difficult. If you're not used to doing that kind of sticking, that'll mess you up. And then we go on to letter B. I'll play this line for you. Nothing too difficult there, okay? Now we're going to go on to the next 2 lines. They go together kind of well. This thing at the third line of letter B, or the second page, I should say, the ghosted notes should be barely heard. Very funky. So we'll play those 2 lines for you. So watch out for your stickings there. I'm doing all those stickings as written. The next line we get into has a little bit of a tricky triplet figure on that second beat. We'll play that. So make sure you're doing that big crescendo for those 2 bars, and those 5s need to be wide so they sound good and in time. So we'll play letter C now for you, that line. Now I went on there, and this is the only place where I'm changing the written stickings. So I'm doing all these the same, so they sound the same. He has written with the left hand, which is hard to play, and also to me it sounds too different, so I'm just changing that there. And now we'll just play on to the end of the solo. So the last 3 lines of the solo sound like this. So you see how I'm disconnecting those rolls on the second to last line. If I tied them, they'd sound like this. There's nothing wrong with tying them. It's just not written that way. So I'm disconnecting them. So I'm going to try to go through both these books and do this line by line for you. You could slow it down here on YouTube. This is the kind of thing you might want to study with a teacher. It's very, very complex. And I work on these a lot with my very advanced students. I highly recommend them. So thanks, and we'll see you next time with the next solo.